Hello, my name is Dick Shaw, and I'm coming to you today from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Recently, in our Sunday morning Bible class, we were in the book of Luke, chapter 22, and we came to verse 44, which says this, "And being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground." And this is Jesus talking about here. And it was explained in the class that his sweat was not blood, but was like blood. You know, if you're in the deep south in the middle of the summer and it's 90 degrees outside and 80% humidity, you'd be sweating quite a bit. Now imagine you're in those conditions and you're really working hard at some physical job, or perhaps you're running a marathon and you were in it for an hour already. Why, you'd be sweating profusely, to the point that your sweat was running to the ground. Much the same way your blood would run to the ground if you had a severe cut or open gash and failed to cover it up properly. Well, after class, I was thinking about this and decided to look into it a little more. Now, let me set the scene here. Jesus and his apostles had just finished eating the Passover meal, and this was the evening before that he would be arrested that night and then the next day be crucified. Jesus led his apostles to the Garden of Gethsemane, where he often went to pray, and he told them, "Wait here and pray," and then he went about a stone's throw away and began to pray himself. Now, a stone's throw just means it wasn't very far, probably maybe from one side of your yard to the other side. And this is in verses 39 and 41 here in chapter 22. Then in verse 42, we find what Jesus prayed. He said, "Father, if it is your will, take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." And as I read earlier in verse 44, we're told that Jesus was in anguish or in agony, and he was praying more earnestly or very fervently. In Matthew's account, Jesus said, "My soul is exceedingly sorrowful," or deeply grieved, even to the point of death. And Mark records that Jesus began to be very distressed and troubled. So this is where Jesus is at when it's noted that his sweat became like drops of blood falling to the ground. And as I looked more into this, I found that some claim that his sweat was actually blood. But the scriptures don't say that. It just says that his sweat was like drops of blood. And then I found others talking about a medical condition called hematidrosis, which is a very rare condition that causes you to ooze or sweat blood from your skin. And there are only a couple dozen cases that have been confirmed in medical studies in the past century. It usually happens around the face, but it can also come from other parts of the body as well. Tiny blood vessels in the skin break open, and the blood inside them may get squeezed out through the sweat glands along with the sweat. You've heard the term sweating blood? Perhaps this is where that comes from. And it seems to be caused by extreme distress or fear, such as facing death or torture or some severe ongoing abuse. Now, I suppose this could be what was happening to Jesus at this time, but we don't know that. So the best answer, I think, is what was given in our Bible class, that it was intense sweat that was like drops of blood falling to the ground, because that's what the scriptures tell us. 5 years ago this month, I got a call from my primary care doctor that I will never forget. I had been to see him a few days earlier for just a general checkup, and some blood work was done as part of that checkup. Then came the phone call. He said, "My blood work showed that I have chronic lymphocytic leukemia, or blood cancer, and that I had about 5 years to live." Remember, this was 5 years ago, this month actually. But I'm okay. I'm doing quite well. I'm responding very well to the medication they have me on. And my oncologist has told me that I probably have at least another 5 years. But he doesn't know, just like my primary care doctor didn't know. It's just a guess. Only God knows. But I remember it was quite a shock, and my mind was going everywhere, thinking all kinds of situations. I wasn't sure what to think, really. Now think about this. On this night before Jesus was crucified, his sweat was like drops of blood. Now that's not the important thing. It only highlights his mental and emotional state and puts his humanity on full display. But he didn't have about 5 years to live, or maybe another 5 years. He had less than a day, and it wasn't a guess, it was a fact, and he knew it. It's no wonder that he was troubled, distressed, and in agony. But he prayed to his Father in heaven, "Not my will, but yours be done." And that's a message I want to leave with you this day. We're not promised anything in this life on earth, but if we're in Christ, we're promised everything in the next life. That's where I found my strength and my hope, trusting in the will of God. Not my will, but yours be done. Won't you do the same?
If you would like more information, or if you'd like to participate in our Bible studies and worship services, we would love to have you come join us at the Northeast Church of Christ in Albuquerque,